The SEC East has a dilemma this year, and it's all about expectations and opportunities. Thank you for clicking on this video. You're a good sport. This is College Football Media. We talk teams, trends, traditions, all the way to logos, history, and predictions. If that sounds interesting to you, consider subscribing for in-depth college football content. The SEC East. On the surface, it's another year. Obviously, we're coming off an interesting, unique off-season. However, what's different about this year specifically? Well, going into it, you need to focus on the teams Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And there's a couple other teams that obviously will play a role as well. First off, Georgia has had control of this division for the past several years under head coach Kirby Smart. But now the head coach at Florida, Dan Mullen, is a couple of seasons in, and their expectations are beginning to rise. Well, let me rephrase that. Their expectations aren't necessarily rising, but the time that Dan Mullen has been there now means that higher expectations must be achieved, because that's been the expectation at Florida since the Spurrier era. However, the administration, and maybe more importantly the fans at Georgia, have those same expectations. In some cases, the expectations are even a bit higher at Georgia because they have achieved some really high heights. This season, Georgia is all in on a playoff appearance and national championship. Georgia feels like they have the best quarterback they've had in the past several years. You don't know necessarily who's going to win the job, but you expect that competition to rise and therefore make the quarterback position more of an asset for the Bulldogs. And the defense will be as good as it has been under Kirby Smart and really is a banner year. Could be perhaps one of the best defenses in the nation this year. So Georgia is all in and they are going after that conference championship, therefore would obviously be in the playoffs, and they're hoping that the offense will be better than it has been under quarterback Jake Fromm, whether it be JT Daniels or Newman from Wake Forest, or maybe even a newcomer coming in to take that spot. So for Georgia, you expect the offense to get better. You expect it to change perhaps a little bit, be a little more open to passing the ball and getting down the field and scoring points. And defense, they could hold the majority of the teams on their schedule under 30 points this year. The toughest thing for Georgia is probably their schedule because their Western Division matchups this year are both Alabama and Auburn. You flip to Florida and they have a returning quarterback in Kyle Trask, who really out of all of the returning starters to the SEC is probably the best quarterback that's available. Of course, that is one of Dan Mullen's biggest strengths, is the offense and specifically the quarterback position. Of course, think back over his career, Tim Tebow, Dak Prescott. So you definitely want to have the quarterback position locked down for a Dan Mullen offense, and that it is with Kyle Trask. However, now a couple years into his tenure, you have that returning quarterback, you have the talent on defense, and so the expectations are beginning to rise. And the Florida fans, this is what sums it up for the Florida Gators this year. A lot of their fans are saying, if not 2020, then when? And that really is a good question that only time can give the answer to. If not 2020, then when? Then you look at South Carolina and Tennessee, who are kind of on two opposite ends of the spectrum. South Carolina has had head coach Will Muschamp for a couple seasons now, and if he does not show progress, he is already on the hot seat, and it looks like if he can't get anything done, or at least show signs of progress, then he most likely could be fired after this year. On the flip side, Jeromy Pruitt is on a soar of momentum coming off of the last 6 to 7 games of this past season and a huge recruiting wave that he's been riding in 2020. So Jeromy Pruitt with Tennessee is on the up and up, and they need to continue to improve, and they can't start going back downhill, or else it could spiral out of control, similar to how it did with Butch Jones once they got momentum going a little bit. So Jeromy Pruitt needs to see success this season to continue to improve that program and have the buy-in from the fans and administration in Knoxville. And Will Muschamp needs to see success on the field at South Carolina, or else he could lose his job. That very easily points out 4 programs whose expectations are to improve this season. And then you throw into the mix Mark Stoops at Kentucky, who consistently has a good football program at Kentucky. And then you have a new first-year head coach, or at least first year at Missouri. You wouldn't expect a lot of results from Missouri this season, but with a new head coach, you don't necessarily know what to expect from the Tigers as of yet. Of course, the other team is Vanderbilt, and that's still, well, Vanderbilt. But Kentucky, of course, still has a horse in this race. South Carolina, Tennessee, kind of on that bubble, and then you have the big dogs in Florida and Georgia of the division. That means you have 4 programs that need to see vital results in this one year, and Kentucky, who could play upset for a majority of them. And that gets into the opportunity side of this. You have really, really high expectations at a majority of the programs in this division, and only one opportunity. Only one team can come out as the division winners, and that does not even guarantee that they can beat the West in the SEC championship, get to the playoff, and compete for a national championship. So this is like putting all of these ingredients into a pot, stirring them up, and it's just going to explode. It is a recipe for disaster. However, I don't think it would be smart for, take those 2 programs in Georgia and Florida, I don't think it would be smart for either of those coaches to be fired after this season. I think both coaches show a lot of promise, but it's just somebody on the tail end of this season in 2020 will be perhaps on the hot seat, or at least be taking a lot of flack from the media and from fans, and have to deal with a lot of controversy. Both Florida and Georgia have been to New Year's Six bowl games in the past couple of years, and in order to improve off of that, there's really only one thing you can do: win a championship, get to the playoff, and compete for a national championship. I do kind of expect South Carolina to be the odd man out, probably hung out to dry, not enough games to be able to win for Muschamp, and he could be gone, and I frankly expect him to be gone, fired after the end of this year. Jeromy Pruitt, still kind of a wild card. I do expect he'll get one big game, whether it be Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, or maybe even Alabama. And so that team, they will, I expect, continue to improve. And that can just basically throw a wrench in the whole system for the likes of, as I said, Florida and Georgia. And that is the game, the rivalry of the year, at least in the SEC East. It is a big, big deal because they're both expecting monster years. And that creates the dilemma for the SEC East of 2020. Again, as I said, don't fire either of these coaches after this season. Just be expected to take a lot of heat from a lot of outside sources. But what do you think? Let me know your opinion in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and let me know what you think in the comment section down below of how you expect this to play out, who should be fired, who should stay, who to expect to come out and be the champion of the SEC East. And we'll get to my predictions later in the summer just for fun. So again, thank you for watching this video. This has been College Football Media. Until next time, be goody now.